YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Today we're here to introduce Trump Mobile. We've partnered with some of the greatest people in the industry to make sure that real Americans can get true value from their mobile carriers. With Trump Mobile, we're going to be introducing an entire package of products that people can come, they can get telemedicine on their phone for one flat monthly fee, roadside assistance in their cars, unlimited texting to 100 countries around the world.
The fact that all your customer service will be done in America. It's going to be done in St. Louis, Missouri. I hope I was allowed to give that out. And making phones in America. It's about time we bring products back to our great country, and it's about time we disrupt this space.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. The Trump family has announced that they will be releasing a Donald Trump mobile phone. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how Palantir was teaming up with the current government regime, which of course Palantir is connected to each government regime because Palantir is just a branch of the CIA that is compiling data on Americans. So is it a coincidence that a few weeks after we found out the connection between Palantir and Donald Trump, now we're finding out that Donald Trump has a phone that's going to be released? And if you understand how Palantir works and who's behind Palantir, let's just say that this is going to be spyware for the Mossad. Now, many people out there become so desensitized to their own privacy that they say, well, they're already spying on us anyway. I might as well get the Trump phone. What's the difference between a smartphone and a Samsung phone or an iPhone? What's the difference? The Trump phone's cool. I support Donald Trump. I'll support his phone. The government's already listening to everything that we say, but they don't understand that this phone is going to be direct to Palantir technology. This is AI driven through Palantir, and it's going to target specific individuals because we know the only people who will be purchasing this phone would actually be conservative. So now they could literally target one group of people with a specific group of ideologies compared to the entire population having some type of spyware on their phone, literally just going after people who are conservative or, of course, Christian. And if you understand what Palantir does, then this should horrify you as a conservative or a Christian. And you should start waking up now before it's too late. So some of the things that you'll find in the fine print about what is included with this phone is artificial intelligence and automated decision making. And this will all sound like something that should just, oh, well, what's the big deal? It's just AI. This is consent for AI. And then you need to understand about Palantir and predictive policing because it's right out of Minority Report what they do. And I'll explain momentarily. But from Trump's website, it says, we employ artificial intelligence technologies to enhance the performance and functionality of the Trump mobile services, which includes tailoring your experience through automated processing based on your activity using the Trump mobile services. The AI systems work by analyzing your usage patterns, preferences, and other interactions within our services to predict your interests and preferences. Keyword predict. Now, some people might hear that and say, well, I get recommended banner ads all the time based on other things that I buy. Or, of course, we all know that you'll get an occasional banner ad every day of something that you might be talking about in private with your computer or your phone not on, and it'll show up on your computer or your phone, right? Because yes, they are indeed spying, but just keep in mind that word to predict your interests and preferences, because again, this is all about predictive policing, and it's a word that people need to start understanding. So It goes on to say, by using the Trump's mobile services, you consent to the use of AI as described in this privacy policy. We encourage you to review your privacy settings regularly to ensure they continue to reflect your preferences. So this phone will be complete with Palantir AI tracking software. And if you're not familiar with everything that Palantir has been doing over with Israel, Palantir Technologies supplies Israel, the Mossad, with advanced AI-driven targeting systems, facilitating mass civilian deaths in Gaza. Now, if you look further into Palantir, they're a data analysis firm which has been collaborating with Israel's military and security forces for several years, providing technology and services, particularly within the context of the ongoing conflict with Hamas and the occupied Palestine territories. Here are some of the key ways that Israel uses Palantir's technology. AI-driven targeting systems, investigations by organizations like The Nation, and reports from sources like Bloomberg and Reuters suggest that Palantir provides AI-driven targeting systems to Israel, potentially facilitating the identification and analysis of potential enemy targets. This technology can analyze various data sources, including intelligence, communications, and surveillance, to help determine target viability and assist in planning military operations. Predictive policing. Palantir's AI-based systems are reportedly used to support Israel's surveillance and identify individuals who may pose a threat or engage in lone wolf terrorist attacks. Sounds a lot like the movie Minority Report, where we had an entire film show us what the future would look like based on arresting people for pre-crimes, thought police, having ideologies that differ from what the government wants you to think about. Remember, all these people are talking about every single day is behavioral control. That's all big tech talks about. Big tech, Larry Fink, the people responsible and have their hand in everything, talk about how they want to be able to control people's behaviors, including Alex Karp, who I covered in a recent video talking about their main objective being behavioral control.
What we do is we use what legal scholars call predicate-based search. So we would look at you, and then we would go out and say, oh, there's lots of different things in your life that may be indicative of someone involved in bad behavior.
Then we were asked if we were willing to supply our product philanthropically, basically for free, and I was very in favor of this because our primary mission is, in fact, to set a global standard for the world for behavior.
Well, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally. Central question, in my view, of civil liberties is how, it's not if the government has data, because let's assume the government has as much data as a health insurance company. It's how is that data being used? Is it being used in a way that's lawful? Meaning, do they have the right to use it? And is it being migrated into places it's not allowed to be used? We allow the enforcement of rules that the government ought to enforce. And by the way, my experience is they want to enforce, or at the very least know they need to enforce. And if it's framed in that way, then you can have what is the ultimate Silicon Valley solution.
So if they have predictive policing, and say suddenly you have this Trump mobile phone, and you start texting with your friends or talking with your friends, and you mention the word Israel, well, you're going to be in big trouble, because just like what we're seeing going on with the Mossad right now, instead of, some group over in the Middle East being targeted, it's going to be individuals that they identify as a threat in the United States of America. And it'll be people who speak against Israel. So now we're going to have all conservatives only purchasing this phone. Doesn't mean every single conservative is going to buy this phone, but we know with the alt-right groupies out there, the Benny Johnsons, who are promoting this to their audience, they're going to sell this product to their audience. And that's how this American corporation works. All the alt-right groupies come out. They talk about how cool this phone is going to be, how Donald Trump's kicking butt. And they start marketing it to those people subliminally. Here's a coupon code through Benny Johnson. Here's a coupon code through Russell Brand and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. Suddenly, this advanced AI-driven technology is now in the palm of their hands. But they don't realize that this is nothing more than their way of targeting individuals within the conservative movement who are speaking against Israel or who have a different viewpoint, or maybe potentially in the future might change their viewpoint on Donald Trump when they realize that he is not a prophet, that he is not here through divine intervention, that he was chosen to be put in this role to bring in AI governance. Well, they want to make sure that they have advanced AI that's targeting the same people who are supposed to be on the side of this coming AI governance infrastructure. So this is a very specific way to target very specific group of people. This is 50% of the population. So you're taking these other phones that have a certain type of spyware that we all know that they're tracking and they're monitoring. But Palantir's is so far advanced that their algorithms are detecting things that they'll see in the future as being a terroristic threat. And of course, again, that is speaking against Israel. Most Christians don't realize what is coming, what the ADL wants, what the Noahide laws will be all about, and how Christians' speech will be removed, how Christians won't be able to profess Jesus Christ as their king because they'll consider it hateful. And right now they might not be able to grasp it because they don't see it, but eventually they will. So these algorithms are very, very unique and they're very, very targeted. They're able to literally create massive profiles on you, on your behavior, and then, of course, target you. So I'm going to play a clip for people out there so they could get a little bit more of a background on Palantir and how Palantir works directly with the CIA and the FBI. Because again, these companies are shell companies for the government. They're shell companies for DARPA. They are not really companies. They are the deep state. These companies present themselves as, well, we are, entrepreneurs and we came up with this great idea and we want to do this and we want to do that. They work directly with the government. And Palantir's goal has been to get their technology in the palm of people's hands. That's what their goal has been. And this is the perfect way to do it. Their goal when they went public as a publicly traded stock was to begin selling this to consumers. But why would consumers purchase this type of targeting technology on their own devices? Unless, of course, they were led into purchasing a specific phone that maybe was marketed to them because they thought it was going to be in their best interest, like a Trump mobile phone. And then suddenly Palantir is now selling this surveillance state to these individuals who don't even realize that they're now going to be tracked and monitored even more than they've ever been before, because this is way more advanced than most artificial intelligence systems that are out there. So take a look at Palantir. And again, I covered it in a separate video recently about Alex Karp and Peter Thiel, but take a look.
Co-founded by Peter Thiel back in 2003, its mission, providing software that customers use to integrate volumes of data from images to spreadsheets into a central platform where it can then be securely analyzed and interpreted.
Best known for its work with U.S. government agencies like the CIA, the Department of Defense, and most controversially, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the company was founded following 9/11 with the goal of defending American interests.
The core mission of our company always was to make the West, especially America, the strongest in the world for the sake of global peace and prosperity.
Confusion remains about what it is exactly that Palantir does, and why their work with law enforcement agencies has raised eyebrows. The name Palantir comes from the Lord of the Rings. In the fantasy series, Palantiri are spherical stones that help powerful users see what is going on in other parts of Middle-earth and communicate with each other. Founded in 2003 by billionaire Peter Thiel alongside current CEO Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and Nathan Gettings, Palantir's tech helps detect unusual or suspicious patterns in large datasets, using techniques that the founders learned working together at PayPal. The CIA was one of the company's earliest investors, and its only customer for a number of years. Eventually, other intelligence agencies like the FBI and the NSA jumped aboard, using the company's customized data analytics capabilities to track and capture terrorists, insurgents, and drug smugglers.
They cite Afghanistan and Iraq as two examples of places where soldiers were mapping networks of insurgents and makers of roadside bombs by hand. So they actually were bringing in technology to do things that intelligence agents on the ground were having to do manually in very dangerous places.
We work hand in hand with most of the special operators in the Western world. We work hand in hand with most of the clandestine services. We're in over 40 countries.
Today, the company increasingly works with high-profile commercial customers, too. Its first was JP Morgan Chase, which adopted the software in 2009 to monitor employees who might go rogue. However, the partnership ended in scandal when JP Morgan's special operations lead used it to spy on top executives. Others have continued to express interest, though. Fiat Chrysler now uses Palantir to identify potential faults in car parts. Airbus uses it to respond more quickly to manufacturing problems, accelerating the production of its A350 aircraft. And BP uses it to analyze drilling data, reportedly leading to a 10% increase in oil production in the North Sea.
This is a hefty piece of software that runs across an enterprise and is used for understanding everything that a company faces, whether it's their customers, their supply chains, downtime, geographies where there's growth, where their competitors are gaining share.
Long-standing government contracts remain integral to the company's revenue as well as its reputation. And during the coronavirus crisis, Palantir has formed a number of new partnerships too, with the VA, the National Institutes of Health, and Britain's National Health Service, helping these agencies, as well as the CDC, to track the spread of the virus and allocate resources.
In order to make decisions right now, in order to know where the PPEs need to go, in order to know when and where you're going to reopen, you want all the analytical models, all the pieces of information all in one place. Palantir is really designed to thrive in a crisis.
But especially under the Trump administration, the company's work with ICE and police departments has raised considerable concern in the liberal-leaning Silicon Valley, leading Palantir to double down on its commitment to law enforcement and national defense.
So I do think this idea of nationalism and libertarianism is kind of intersecting in a very interesting way, and Palantir seems to represent all of that.
Protests against Palantir first gained traction in 2018, primarily in response to the company's contracts with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which are worth up to $92 million. The agency has cracked down on illegal immigration through workplace raids and separating families at the border.
My house has been protested for many months, almost every day. Our office has been protested. Many Palantirians protested against it internally. Some people were so upset by it that they left. These are very hard decisions.
Co-founder and board member Peter Thiel is probably President Trump's most famous Silicon Valley backer, donating $1.25 million to his 2016 campaign. Karp's politics differ, but he says that Palantir remains fully committed to aiding the U.S. government.
I've never stopped being critical of this administration. I'm not planning to vote for this administration. So there are things I do differently. The core issue, though, is who decides. The small island in Silicon Valley that would love to decide what you eat, how you eat, and monetize all your data should not decide who lives in your country and on what your conditions. There are elections, there are rules, they should be enforced.
Karp's ethos also holds true for Palantir's work with police departments from New York City to Los Angeles, New Orleans, and Chicago, who have used the tech for surveillance of criminal suspects and predictive policing, a tactic that civil liberties groups say leads to over-policing of minority neighborhoods. But can Palantir really claim to be above the political fray?
I understand the desire to be neutral and to kind of say, hey, we're going to play by the rules. That is a logically coherent stance if companies are also neutral with regard to who makes the laws. But hold on, if you're willing to back political factions with your own money, you can't say, well, in this aspect of our business, we do influence policy and politics, but over here, we are politically neutral. It doesn't work that way.
Other tech companies, like Google, have backed out of controversial contracts with the Defense Department. But Palantir sees that as an abdication of responsibility.
Peter and I built a very patriotic company. Google's clearly not a patriotic company.
Karp also hit back against the culture of the Valley in the company's S-1 filing to go public.
Here's what he had to say. The engineering elite of Silicon Valley may know more than most about building software, but they do not know more about how society should be organized or what justice requires. Our company was founded in Silicon Valley, but we seem to share fewer and fewer of the technology sector's values and commitments.
Valley is basically sold its soul to an advertising model where it's okay to sell your data, but it's not okay to support the country. And they didn't want to be part of that ecosystem and didn't feel that ecosystem was aligned with their values.
For most of its history, Palantir has spent heavily on software customization services for both government agencies and large corporations.
It is a very costly business to run, but if they can automate their own processes and have a more efficient sales process and get the biggest customers to continue to buy more, then their operating metrics do improve over time.
As of late, that's what Palantir has been trying to do. And now it offers two fixed-fee platforms, Gotham for government clients and Foundry for the private sector. The company's target market is said to be the 6,000 companies that make $500 million or more in revenue.
The average customer spends over $5 million a year on Palantir's product. The top 20 customers account for roughly 2/3 of their revenue. They say they only have about 125 customers. So this is fundamentally different than your Zoom and your Slack. It is not for everyone.
I think the Palantir IPO is going to signal to venture investors and others that serving the Department of Defense and military business is going to be worthwhile.
Karp certainly hopes so, saying that the future of our nation depends on it.
The country with the most important AI, most powerful AI, will determine the rules. That country should be either us or a Western country.
Palantir doesn't do business with China, the U.S.'s main competitor when it comes to AI.
So if we bring our A game, we will win. If we bring our D+ game, because most people in the Valley live on an island where this seems like a questionable project, they will win.
So now they're going to be able to sell this to you, right? And you could thank, again, the alt-right groupies who are going to be selling this to conservative Christian Americans who are going to think that this phone is innocent, or they're going to say, well, you know what? They're already spying on us anyway because they don't even understand what AI is. So they don't realize that this is probably the most advanced targeting AI that is out there. And this isn't something that they'd be able to sell to anyone based on if you find out what Palantir does, you say, I don't want that. Why would I want that? So of course, in the fine print, you'll never see Palantir mentioned because it's no different than if you buy an iPhone. It's not going to say, well, this is also all your information is going to go to the CIA and the FBI and right to the government, right? They're not going to do that because people wouldn't purchase the product. They don't need or have to do that, I should say, because they want you to purchase this. This is the official phone of the United States government that they're selling you. And if one of the goals was to get this in civilians' hands, sure, could they work with companies like Apple and Samsung? Yeah, but think about how much further you could narrow down who the individual targets are, because conservative Christians are the target that they need to eliminate. Right now, they feel like they're on an upswing because Trump was put back into power. Most of them are trying to convince themselves every day that he's not one of them, even though he reveals himself every single day. And these people are starting to see it, but they're telling themselves, hey, you know, better that he's the lesser of two evils. I'll take him over Kamal. Would you rather have Kamal? You know, thinking that their vote actually counts, thinking that there's a choice to any of this, and giving their consent to be governed. Now they're all of a sudden, through various mind control techniques, going to imprison themselves with this type of tech. And these are the people that the government really wants to spy on, are the conservatives, because the liberal ideologies are the globalist ideologies. The liberal ideologies are the New World Order. So they don't need to change their ideologies. They don't need to target them. They're all pro-LGBT, right? They're all pro-universal basic income. They're all pro all of these globalist ideologies. The ones that they need to target are Trump, but these people are wearing blindfolds right now, thinking that they're on the winning team, that Trump is one of them, and he's killing off the globalists, even though he's at the G7 summit, he was at the World Economic Forum, he's rubbing shoulders with all of the globalist elites, he's bringing in AI governance. Every single thing that he does every single day has some type of affiliation with the globalist ideologies and agendas, including the Club of Rome's 10 Kingdom Plan, the merging of Greenland and Canada, which should have woke people up. Day one, the AI infrastructure, getting advanced in AI, building out AI-powered databases so that they never go offline. All this stuff with Starlink connected to Elon Musk and the Neuralink. It's amazing that people don't actually see it. So now this is a very targeted, specific way to get this technology, this advanced AI algorithm in the hands of Christian conservatives who are going to fall for this because they're going to think it's cool. And then, of course, on the other side of it, think about how I've talked about you can identify people based on politics, right? You see somebody with like blue hair, or so you could say, oh, that's a lib, or that's a Dem, based on how they dress, how they look. Same with the conservatives, like the redneck type of look or the preppy kind of look. You can look at people and identify their politics for the most part in the year 2025. Well, now people will be walking around with this gold phone. So it's another way you could identify people and their politics. Might as well have a swastika or some symbol on their clothing where you can identify if they're a white nationalist or not, or if they're this or that. This is what they're doing. This is how easy it is for them to break people down to a point where you can identify people based on how they look or their preferences in the bedroom and how they vote and what their political ideologies are. And again, the ones they want to cancel out, the political ideologies that they're against are the conservative political ideologies. The Democrats are all on board. So this is a very, very strategic way for them to come out, get this advanced AI in the hands of conservatives, and then put them on not only on target lists, but they could literally, through small things and suggestions that people make in text messages or comments that you make on YouTube or on Facebook, that's how they could start targeting. People think that, the algorithm's listening as if you're on the phone with somebody. You're like, we're gonna meet, down in Waco, and we're all gonna bring our weapons, and we're gonna go out into the woods offline. They don't even need you to come out and say it. Their algorithms are gonna detect behavior that they would consider bad based on little things, like little subtle things that you might write or say, or countries that you might speak against, specifically Israel. And then suddenly you're arrested or you're on a list because you're considered a threat to the government thanks to all of this advanced AI and this AI-driven targeting, predictive policing crap that they have been waiting to unleash on the American people. So Donald Trump releases a gold phone after he's already tapped Palantir to compile data on Americans. Now we could specifically say that we know every single person who purchases one of these phones is going to be some type of conservative, Christian, white nationalist, right? Unbelievable how easy this is to them. I mean, they can market these things and the conservatives just don't see it. I mean, they're almost as blind, and maybe they're more blind than the other people, the other side, the Democrats, because some of the stuff that Trump's getting away with and these people are just turning a blind eye is absolutely incredible. But you'll hear them. They'll say, they're already spying on us anyway, so what do we care? They're already listening to our calls, so I don't care. Right, then they'll purchase this stuff thinking that they're cool, showing their friends. And next thing you know, slowly, the more Trump reveals himself over the next couple of years, they might start changing their viewpoint. And now they have this phone that suddenly is monitoring and tracking behavior, not just websites you look at, little things that you talk about on the phone or text to other people. And then suddenly they're now looking at you. Oh, we've got people within the party that are turning on the party. They're turning on the conservative communist party, right? They're anti-technocracy. They're anti-what's coming with AI governance. Well, then all of a sudden you become the target. And that's how this whole thing works, because eventually everybody will be the target. Anyone who doesn't want to comply to this digital hell that they're bringing in is going to be considered an enemy of the state. Anybody who speaks against Israel is going to be considered an enemy of the state. Christians will be considered enemies of the state. True, real Christians. And of course, anybody out there who is anti-enslavement will be considered an enemy of the state. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.